Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ninja Turtles podcast. I wanted to do a quick video just talking about who essentially is going to be within the upcoming sequel now that it's been announced shooting in April and that it's going to be released, of course, in just 1 year in 2016. That, by the way, is considered fast tracking. That is the word tied in Hollywood for something like this, which makes sense because you want to keep the momentum going, and with the success of the first film, you want to keep the fans close to that success, and what better way to do that than to release a film 2 years from the original release. So in this case, this video is talking about who's in, who's out when it comes to the upcoming sequel, based all, of course, on preliminary information. Some of this could change later on. It all depends again on whatever suits the script and whatever suits the producers, and in some cases the actors, based on their scheduling, as far as them being in or out of the sequel. Of course, the Turtles are going to be in the sequel, no duh on that part, and April O'Neil will be in the sequel. You cannot have any film involving the Ninja Turtles without April O'Neil, so Megan Fox should be back. Now, the rumored part as to who will be back is tied primarily to the William Fichtner role, the Eric Sachs role that was within the first film. This is still kind of up in the air. He recently did an interview, and I talked about it in one of my other podcasts, where he says that it's being worked on. That he said, I think the words he said was, it's on the table with regards to his work, to his role being within the sequel. But I'm pretty much sure he's going to be in it because the guy, the actor, is actually signed on for 3 films. Him and I believe Megan Fox are the ones that are tied for 3 films. So whenever that happens, that's always done with the indication that we'll find a way to get the guy in, or to get the actor in, to the film. It just wouldn't make sense to make that long-term commitment only to change things afterward. Now, whether his role is going to be morphed into the true Shredder, that remains to be seen. That's also probably something that's still on that system, on the script, on the table, as he put it. So that remains to be seen. I think they're going with that angle still because, again, his character was not the Shredder in the first film, but it was supposed to be the Shredder. But his evolution as a character, it would make perfect sense to have him be now the person filling in the shoes of the Shredder now that his former master is defeated, presumably defeated, because falling from, I don't know, how high was it, 50 stories, something along those lines, and hitting the ground straight at the bottom, no matter what kind of condition the suit was that was protecting that guy, the Shredder, it no doubt debilitated him. And here's where I think, and this is just pure speculation on my part, but I believe that that role of the Shredder from the first film will in turn become Krang. And the reason I say this is because, and somebody pointed this out on one of the forums, there's a very brief moment, it's a blink and you miss it moment, when the Shredder has landed on the ground, people are surrounding him, he's completely defeated, he's buried 3 or 4 feet based on the impact of the ground. And there's a very, very brief moment where he's not quite dead yet, but he has his finger on that green goo. Like, he has his finger on the goo, like he's touching it on purpose to try to absorb it into his body, into his skin. It's very, very brief. Rewatch it when you have a chance, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I did not catch it the first couple of times I saw the film in the theater, but now that I saw it on the forum pointed out, I looked at it, and sure enough, it was there. So that leads me to think that the green stuff that mutated the Turtles will now mutate that Shredder, probably save him from certain death, because no doubt he was probably going to die shortly after that impact, but it would mutate him probably into Krang. And it also, and then again, this is pure speculation on my part, probably Eric Sachs's character helps this mutation, saving his master, but again relegating him based on the mutation into a mechanical body of some sort, because maybe most of that Shredder does not survive, but the mutation saves him nonetheless, but it survives him and saves him in the form of Krang, that living brain that you and I both know from the cartoon series. That's, I think, the angle that I'm going with when it comes to the upcoming sequel. And then, of course, Bebop and Rocksteady are pretty much all but confirmed of being in the movie. Splinter is somebody also that should be within the film. The only other person that still stands out, and this is less of a gray area, far more uncertain, is the character of Casey Jones. Fan favorite Casey Jones. There was supposed to be something involving him within the first film as well, but I think that they're saving him for another place. I don't know. I could be wrong, but at that point there would be too many cooks in the kitchen, too many roles jumping around when it comes to the sequel. And in that case, if they do have him in there, maybe it'll be more of like an introduction, have him be really within the third film, because this is a planned trilogy. And if they go with that angle, that would make much more sense. Or who knows, he may just be a full-blown new character right there on film. And if that's the case, it'll be interesting to see how he's juggled with everything else happening in the sequel. One thing that I don't think will be in the sequel will anything involving Dimension X. And the only reason I say this is because, again, I think they're going with the angle that the Shredder from the first film will become Krang. Because if they're starting to introduce like Krang coming from another dimension, and this whole army that he comes with, and then all these alien beings, that's just going into a whole other realm that the film, as crazy as it sounds, it just wouldn't seem realistic. I know, it sounds crazy. When you have a film dealing with 4 teenager turtles that are mutated, and then a robot samurai, to quote Vern's character, here it makes sense. Like, it feels natural in a weird way to see that on film. But to suddenly introduce within that same world a flying technodrome, or in some cases a giant army from Dimension X made out of rocks, that kind of stuff, that's something else completely different. It would seem unnatural. As I once heard an argument online, it's the idea of Peter Parker having him shoot like the web sling from his body instead of him creating it. Makes much more sense than having him constantly have to create that web sling shooter stuff on his own. Like, let's say, use materials and use inventions to do so, because he's supposed to be broke. He's supposed to be somebody who's struggling financially constantly. So for him to suddenly have, let's say, a non-stop unlimited access to materials to make up the web shooter, it doesn't make sense, as jarring as it sounds when you're considering, again, somebody who was mutated to walk on walls. So that's where I'm going with that angle. I could be wrong, and again, the film is out in a year and a half, but that's the angle that I'm going with. But if anyone has any other ideas, anything else they'd like to share, please post them below. Turtle fans out there, those of you that are looking forward to the sequel, I'll be interested in seeing where you think which characters are going to be in, which characters are going to be out, which storylines they're going with, and so forth. Alright, thanks everybody. Take care. Bye.